This girl has a quirk. She loves to dance on a mountain of corpses. Initially, she still believed in the light. Until she entered the abyss and endured cruel abuse and violation. She fell in love with the feeling of hands stained with blood. However, this selfish and evil woman. At this moment, she chooses to risk her life to save me. She activated the ancient artifact Black Tortoise Jade. Accompanied by the light released by the Black Tortoise Jade. The time and space on the entire island are already in chaos. Various strange creatures are disappearing. Plants are starting to grow at an astonishing speed. Faced with the scene before her, the evil woman dared not linger. She must quickly meet up with me. Relying solely on her own strength, she is currently unable to pass the SSS-level hidden mission. As expected, an accident happened. A giant rock fell from the sky. She didn't have time to react. Her neck was snapped directly. In an instant, a montage played in her mind. A voice spoke to her. Survival in Dire Straits Manga. Entering the accelerated update phase. Audience who like it can be like her. Please subscribe and keep following this channel. Just then, the violent shaking brought her back to consciousness. In a half-awake, half-asleep state, she saw the nightmare from years ago reappear before her. The face of the person who violated her made her angry from the bottom of her heart. Suddenly, a powerful slap struck my face. It turned out that the apparition of the evil woman had just been an illusion. I had actually been performing artificial respiration on her. She actually returned kindness with ingratitude and was still cursing me in fear, telling me to leave. After my persuasion, she gradually calmed down. She asked me about the current situation. But I told her that there was no time to explain now. I grabbed her and was about to leave. However, she seemed unwilling to let me touch her. Even with her legs broken, she was still being stubborn. Just at this critical moment, a bolt of lightning struck from the sky. The water tower, already on the verge of collapsing, finally couldn't hold on any longer. With a loud crash, it toppled into the water. Luckily, I had prepared an oil barrel in advance. Otherwise, I would have been completely drenched this time. Little did I know that an even bigger crisis was about to come. Just because I solved the riddles well. The female ghost insisted on bearing a child with me. But I did not appreciate the offer. While she forcefully kissed me, I would rather die than resist with all my might. You watching the video, stop picking your nose. Quickly help me write this word, and a female ghost will give birth to a child for you. Although the female ghost was sad to let me go. But she still couldn't let go. She forcibly lodged herself in my body. Follow me into the abyss. She was secretly protecting me all the way, and even had some expectations of me. But when she saw me going to save the wicked woman, a hint of annoyance flashed through her mind. Yet I was completely unaware. At this moment, I only wanted the wicked woman to not die. Because I am her summoned minion, the abyss. As long as the wicked woman is gone, I will be buried with her. So I did my best to drag her out of the water. A hand was placed on her shoulder, afraid that she would be swept away by the turbulent undercurrent. Suddenly, she regained consciousness, grimacing and letting out a muffled groan. It turns out that the temporal disturbance just now left her seriously injured. The large expanse of seawater behind her had been dyed red with her blood. I started chatting with her upon seeing the situation, ensuring that she remained conscious. Upon hearing my encouraging words, the wicked woman unexpectedly revealed her vulnerable side. She felt unwilling in her heart. She never expected that her first act of kindness to save me would lead to her demise. Upon hearing this, I immediately cheered her on. As long as I have breath, I will carry her out even if I have to bear the burden. However, my words were met with ridicule from the wicked woman. She had already used points 2 by the strategy for the entire level. If she hadn't been injured, there might have been a glimmer of hope. But now, time has dragged on for too long. Even if we can reach the Gate of Void, it's just a different way to die. After she finished sharing her judgment, I asked her, Can't we clear the level by destroying the research institute? Upon hearing my naive remarks, she sighed and advised me to choose a burial site with good feng shui as soon as possible, because the sleeping Godzilla on this island has been awakened by her. We all cannot escape death. Just as I was about to refute her, suddenly, an arrow pierced beside me. We were shocked and turned our heads abruptly. A raft is speeding towards us. Seeing this, I asked the evil woman, "Have you offended someone again?" Before I could finish my sentence, another sharp arrow struck towards us. Everyone in this world does not live to be 18 years old, because they die before reaching adulthood. They must participate in a death game. The real-life battle royale. Each player will be teleported into the abyss. They need to follow the clues, complete the tasks, and escape from the abyss within the allotted time. During that time, they need to face various dangers. Only the survivors will emerge victorious. Only then can they return to the mortal world. They can not only gain special power and wealth, even have the chance to gain immortality. Of course, opportunities also come with great risks. The abyss allows players to earn points by killing others. These points can be used to purchase weapons in the game. Therefore, anyone is both a hunter and a prey. If one dies in the abyss, they will lose their soul and die permanently. Got you. You're very brave not going into the safe house. I, who is participating in the competition for the first time, am currently being pursued by a stranger. Luckily, we are in the rushing water. Otherwise, carrying my injured companion, it would be difficult for me to avoid death. But little did I know that the other person actually knows me inside out. The person sitting on the raft is none other than Xiao Yu's master. He had long been using the ability to control animals, locking onto the whereabouts of me and the evil woman. He adheres to the principle of taking advantage of your illness to take your life. He hesitated not at all in choosing to catch up with us. He ordered the archer woman, "Be sure to seize the opportunity to get rid of us." The archer woman was making excuses for missing the shot just now. If it weren't for the strong wind and rain, she would have turned me into a hedgehog already. With that, she shot another sharp arrow. I saw the arrows unexpectedly curve and attack us from the side, trying to pierce us like candied haws. At a critical moment, we decided to dive underwater. They saw us slip away. Xiangxi's apprentice started scolding the archer lady. The two of them erupted into a fierce argument. But they were completely unaware that their position had been exposed. Although the thunderstorm perfectly covered their tracks, it didn't pose a challenge for Smoke Man, who can transform into a werewolf. He utilized his enhanced senses to quickly track down the whereabouts of Xiao Yu's master. He patted Brother Kun's shoulder, his face filled with sincere promises. Everything is under his control. He will keep winning until he figures out what the abyss really is. At the same time, I have already swum to near the research institute. However, the evil woman with serious injuries fainted again, although I was anxious to swim directly to the shore. But after much consideration, I still chose to move back to the side. Little did I know that as soon as my front foot landed on the shore, Xiao Yu's master caught up from behind. Luckily, I reacted quickly and hid on the roof. They didn't find me. From their conversation, I found out that this Taoist master in front of me seems to be able to control fish. He quietly followed all the way here. Just then, the evil woman started convulsing. She gritted her teeth, but still moaned. Suddenly, Xiangxi's disciple turned around abruptly. The man didn't want to stay at home to raise the ghost baby after getting her pregnant. He insisted on wandering around the forest alone. But he didn't know he was being watched by 800 scheming spiders. Just as I remembered my way back to the medical room, I was suddenly ambushed by two people. It turned out that they had already locked onto my whereabouts by controlling the spiders. But I am not a pushover either. With just a few moves, I took down the two little gagas who were ambushing me. But I didn't expect them to play dirty. In an instant, I lost the ability to defend myself, and they continued to attack me. They only stopped after I passed out. The sudden beating woke up the female ghost inside me. The female ghost has lived a life of luxury since childhood. She has never experienced such abuse before. But this time, she did not act directly. She just glared at them fiercely. I was awakened by a sound of footsteps, not knowing how much time had passed. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw that my companion, the evil woman, had also been caught by them. Suddenly, I was shocked and regretted my impulsive actions. 2.5 hours ago, the evil woman, seriously injured, planned to give up living. She actually told me that she had deceived me at the beginning. There was no abyss servant mechanic in the abyss at all. I won't have to suffer because she died. Upon hearing these words, I was a bit burning with anger and then turned around and left, watching me leave without saying goodbye. The evil woman's heart is filled with mixed feelings. She feels that I am as indifferent as the others in the abyss. But she doesn't know that I went to find medicine for her. The result was falling into Xingshu Daoist master's trap. This has led to all of us being captured now. Just then, Xingshu suddenly spoke. He said that although we have lost this time the abyss, but as long as the evil woman is willing to tell him the password to the main gate, he can give us a way out. If not, he will have Feng send us on our way. But before he could finish speaking, he was met with the rejection of the evil woman. She knew all too well that being trapped in the abyss was more painful than death. Since she could not pass anyway, she would rather choose to have everyone bury her. She would not obediently hand over the password. At the same time, the apprentice who went to search for clues brought back some bad news. He not only did not find the password for the door, he also learned something terrifying from the archive room about this door. Anyone who enters the wrong password will be immediately burned to death. From their conversation, I learned that as long as this door is opened, we can pass through this abyss. So I decided to shout out, regardless of any past grudges between us. Let's all take a break for now. We can work together to clear the level. There's no need to kill each other here. Upon hearing my foolish statement, everyone fell silent. Daoist Master Xingshu let out a sigh and said, "Since neither of us is willing to reveal the password, let's just kill the two of us then. But let's start with me, this incompetent newbie boyfriend who doesn't even understand the rules. Maybe this way the evil woman will remember the password." As soon as this statement was made, the evil woman burst into laughter. How could such a fool be her boyfriend? If she wasn't tied up, she would have killed me herself. She even said I was a selfish guy who left her behind and escaped alone. Now I understand why she suddenly started speaking in a sarcastic tone. It turns out she misunderstood me. I was just about to refute her words. I saw Xingshu's disciple approaching me with a big pair of scissors. As the male lead, I'm in a miserable situation. A car accident sent me into the abyss and turned me into a player. Although I escaped by a narrow margin, I ended up pregnant with a 1,000-year-old female ghost. However, just as I returned to the real world, I was once again forced to participate in a new the abyss. This time, luck was not on my side. I fell into the hands of a group of little gagas. Not only did they want to cut off my pumpkin, they even wanted to divide me into 5 parts. At first, I didn't believe they would do this. I was still trying to get close to their leader. However, my malicious female colleague couldn't bear to see me behave stupidly any longer. She asked me if I was truly foolish or pretending to be foolish. In this world without moral constraints, no matter how flattering I am, I can't change the ending of being tortured and killed. Upon hearing this, I retorted in a low voice, "Since they would kill me, would they spare you?" Upon hearing my response, the wicked woman was first taken aback. Then a cold smile appeared on her face. In her heart, she assumed I was just being foolish. She didn't bother to understand the rules of the game, the abyss, at all. From the moment she entered the abyss, all players will be divided into 2 teams. Both sides must use any means necessary to compete for the right to pass. Therefore, only one group of people can leave the abyss alive, and I am completely unaware of this. But I didn't expect everything to be predicted by the evil woman. At this time, the followers of the Taoist master have firmly pinned me down. They took out a 40 cm pair of scissors and were about to hurt my friend. Just at the moment when my friend felt the malice, I suddenly panicked and shouted at them to stop. I won't act anymore, I know the password. At these words, Taoist master Xiao Yu immediately became interested. The archer woman under his command bravely volunteered to test my password. But just as the archer approached the gate, the villain suddenly felt uneasy. In fact, she had no idea what the password was. Originally, she just wanted to buy time until the smoke man from the same group arrived. As a result, I ended up revealing the password. She knew very well that regardless of whether my password was correct or not, the Taoist master would not let us off the hook. But no one expected that the archer woman just played around with the password. With a click, the iron gate opened directly. Seeing this, the woman began to exclaim that there was no password for this door at all. The villainess had been deceiving them from the beginning. The next second, the villainess stopped pretending as well. She turned around and was about to rush into the gate while the others were caught off guard. She was grabbed by the hair by one of Taoist master's disciples and ruthlessly thrown against the wall, all the while cursing the wicked woman. At the same time, he picked up a large pair of scissors and fiercely brought it down on her head. Instantly, tomato juice splattered everywhere. Looking at the evil woman lying in a pool of blood, I was completely dumbfounded. However, just at this moment, a dark figure suddenly flashed into the iron gate. It turned out to be the smoke man transformed by beastification. He teased everyone for their hard work. This time, he won the abyss. After that, he locked the heavy iron gate. Seeing this scene, the head of the Taoist master exploded with a bang. He actually abandoned everyone and charged straight out. At this moment, he was only thinking about his junior sister, who was attacked by Smoke Man. He instantly lost his composure. Little Gagas was like scattered sand, leaving me behind directly. They rushed over one after another, desperately pounding on the iron gate in an attempt to get in. At this moment, all I wanted in my heart was to break free from the restraints and save the wicked woman. The rope was tied too tightly that I couldn't break free at all. Just when I was close to despair, my hands began to uncontrollably transform into vines. She is a natural talent. Started practicing magic at the age of 3. Had the strength to rival the immortal class by the age of 9. She conquered the entire world single-handedly. Yet, due to her cruel nature, she was tragically suppressed underground by deities. And I accidentally released her seal. I became the vessel for her escape from the Nether Palace. Since then, her soul has been residing in my body. At first, I was extremely frightened, afraid that she would discover that I hadn't entered the safe house and harm me. But to my surprise, whenever I encountered danger, it was she who was secretly guarding me. Just when I couldn't break free from the restraints, suddenly my hands uncontrollably turned into vines again. It turned out that the female ghost inside me was awakening once more. But for some reason, even after 2.5 minutes, I still couldn't break free from the ropes. The next second, the transformation of my arms suddenly stopped. I wondered if it was because the last battle with the xenomorph had drained her strength. My arms seemed to be able to read my mind and started twitching again. But it was useless. So I silently thought to myself that since I couldn't break free, I could try a different approach by using the thin vines to untie the ropes. Little did I know that the female ghost had heard my inner thoughts. She blushed like a teapot. She released the restraints as I had suggested. But now I have no time for astonishment. Seizing the moment when little Gagas banged on the door, I picked up the bad woman's body and quickly rushed out of the corridor. Leaping into the water, I dragged her cold body. I staggered towards the finish line. Unexpectedly, I encountered Brother Kun along the way. He used a cold tone to tell me to let go of the evil woman. Upon hearing this, I asked him back that we are strangers. I wouldn't hand over the evil woman to him. After saying that, I raised my chicken feet and wanted to leave as soon as possible, because my intuition told me that this Brother Kun was definitely not a good person. Sure enough, I hadn't taken 2 steps before he showed his true colors, even though I reacted quickly and grabbed his wrist. But my face was still cut by him. Seeing this situation, I had no choice but to settle the evil woman. I took a defensive stance, ready to exchange some kung fu moves with him. However, as soon as I was about to make a move, I saw a lightning bolt strike down. Suddenly, a monster's roar came from the clouds. Startled, I looked up suddenly. But to my surprise, I was caught by Brother Kun exploiting my weakness. Fortunately, I had practiced deflecting attacks since childhood and managed to evade his ambush. I closed the distance, attempting to swiftly resolve the battle. However, in Brother Kun's eyes, I was still too inexperienced. He raised his foot and threw mud to block my vision. Then he fiercely kicked out again. Instantly, I spat out ketchup and collapsed on the ground. Just as Brother Kun was about to finish me off, suddenly his phone rang. It turned out to be the Abyss's level completion hint. It seems his big brother Smoke Man had succeeded. Looking at me lying on the ground, he actually suggested that I join his team with the evil woman. Otherwise, he would send us on our way now. But before he finished speaking, I refused him. After all, he had just wanted the evil woman's body. I don't believe such twisted words. Brother Kun felt a little regretful after hearing my response. Saying that, he was about to take me away in one fell swoop. But just then, several bolts of lightning suddenly struck around us. This frightened everyone, causing them to look up hastily, only to see several black dragons emerging from deep within the clouds. They were staring at us fiercely. His inherent soul pulse was incomplete, and he couldn't even utilize special power. But he managed to slaughter all the islanders with just a small knife. In the end, he exchanged the exhaustion and death of people for an era of peace and prosperity. However, after death, he unexpectedly arrived in a place called the Abyss. There, he not only found his long-lost brother. At the same time, the 3 of them also gained the ability of beastification. But only his older brother can use the special power of beastification, although he cannot change the fate of his damaged soul. But his strength is also beyond my reach. In the confrontation just now, Brother Kun didn't even lift his hand and knock me down. He carefully examined my withered arms, feeling incredulous. After wandering in the abyss for 2.5 years, he had never seen a similar metamorphosis. At the same time, my righteous character also pleased him. It would be a pity to kill me. So he suggested that as long as I was willing to be his little brother, then the previous account of the wicked woman causing the death of the redhead can be completely written off. But he was immediately vetoed by me before he finished speaking. I wouldn't betray my teammates. Just as I was about to make another move, a weak voice from behind suddenly said, "Listen to him, do as he says." Since the evil woman didn't die, I couldn't continue to argue. I could only quickly pick her up and silently continue towards the finish line. Along the way, I kept talking to the evil woman non-stop, afraid that she might fall asleep. Completely unaware of the eerie words on the wall, not realizing that they had stepped into a dangerous ruin. At this moment, Brother Kun, who was walking ahead, noticed something unusual. The strong wind on the island seems to be gushing out from the cracks. However, to enter the portal, one must pass through this ruin. Therefore, he slowed down his pace and wanted me to go ahead and investigate first. But I am not a fool when I see this horrifying sight before me. I involuntarily start calling out, "Evil woman!" wanting to seek help from her. After all, she bought all the strategies with a lot of points as soon as she entered the abyss. Unfortunately, there is no information about hidden bosses in the strategies at all. Hearing about the hidden boss surprised me. Are you saying that the monster beneath the ruins is the same as the princess from the Nether Palace? Although the princess can hear my thoughts inside me. But she didn't get angry when I called her a monster. At this moment, all her attention is focused on the words by the roadside. After her careful analysis, she suddenly clapped her hands excitedly. It turns out this place is actually the ancient den of the Silver Jiao from the classic of mountains and seas. They have brought catastrophic disasters to the world since the day of their birth. Wherever they go, bones are exposed in the wilderness. It is just as all living beings are on the brink of destruction. The Divine Emperor on Kunlun Immortal Mountain has finally taken action. He commanded the 5 disciples sitting at the north gate to go and eradicate Jiao Long. Although they obtained the divine artifact, Black Tortoise Jade, it still took the sacrifice of 3 fallen individuals to critically wound Silver Jiao. However, Silver Jiao took the opportunity to escape to the north toward Guishu, but the remaining 2 disciples did not give up. Instead, they pursued relentlessly. In the end, they used the Black Tortoise Jade to forever suppress Silver Jiao in the chaotic spacetime. Upon reading this, the princess suddenly started to tremble. It turns out she wanted to devour Silver Jiao's weakened soul in order to repair her own weakened soul. So she decisively lifted the seal on the relic without hesitation. She was as happy as I am when I see you subscribe to my channel. But her actions almost cost everyone their lives. I am intellectually disabled. This is my first time breaking into the Abyss Battle Royale. I was forcibly entered by a 3,000-year-old female ghost. Even though I struggled for 2.5 minutes, I still couldn't escape the fate of being possessed by the female ghost. Since I got pregnant, I not only have impenetrable skin, even can make my kunlun to be 40 meters long, but lengthening my kunlun is not my intention. It is the greedy female ghost inside my body who did it. She wants to eat the Jiao Long suppressed on the island, to use the essence of Jiao Long to replenish her magical power. But I am completely unaware of this. At this moment, I just want to carry the dying wicked woman on my back, escape from the abyss. I just rushed into the finish line, only to find that my hands have turned into vines. Just as I was trying hard to pull my hands back, suddenly my arm flew back with a swoosh. At the same time, my arm brought back something black. I took a closer look and realized it was a preserved duck egg. I don't have time to think carefully right now. Saving people is the priority. I put the egg in my pocket and started looking for a way out. But this is my first time in the safe house. I don't understand anything. I can only rely on luck and push open a door at random. The next second, I found myself in a small barren land. At the same time, a voice popped up and told me that this was my personal space. Here, I can exchange anything I want with points. Upon hearing this, I immediately asked the system if my companion's serious injury can be healed. I didn't expect the system to say that it couldn't be done. I couldn't help but complain in my heart about the exaggerated promises. And yet, even the treatment couldn't be done. What a useless thing. So, I won't waste my time talking to it. Just let me leave now. As the system twisted, a strange door appeared in front of me. 2.5 seconds later, I found myself back in the underground parking garage of the residential complex. Although the evil woman's car was parked nearby, I, who had no driver's license, had to take a taxi to take her to the hospital. Just arrived at the hospital and settled the evil woman. I was subjected to the soul torture of the famous physician as soon as I arrived. He asked me to explain how the knife wound on the evil woman's back came about. I really couldn't keep it hidden any longer. I had to tell him about my involvement in the abyss. But clearly, with his 2.5 years of experience in the industry, he simply didn't believe me. He looked at me as if I were a fool. He surprisingly didn't continue to ask questions. Instead, he waved his hand and told me to quickly go pay the fees. Looking at the huge medical expenses on the payment slip, I was at a loss for a moment on what to do. I wanted to call a friend to borrow some money, but then I found out that my phone had broken a long time ago. Unfortunately, I could only go back home again. But I just got a spare phone. I suddenly felt dizzy and lightheaded. I fell heavily to the ground, fainted, accompanied by the sound of dripping water. I suddenly woke up, but I found that my hands and feet were tied up. Just then, A charming figure appeared in front of me. I angrily rebuked her. "Which Dao are you from? Quickly release me." Unexpectedly, the woman said, "You are so heartless and ungrateful that you don't even remember me. I am the kind internet friend who answered your questions online. After researching all night, she discovered that I am a rare medicine jar. Using my body can cultivate precious poisonous mushrooms." At these words, I immediately looked at my shoulder. The crazy guy did grow mushrooms on my shoulder. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of a nightmare. I turned around and looked at the city of Chang'an behind me. Princess Taiping was thunderstruck upon hearing the news of Wan'er's death, as if a bolt from the blue. She then broke ties with Li Longji. Princess Taiping, who once held great power in the court, stood silently in front of Shangguan Wan'er's tomb. Watching the peerless female prime minister lying here in eternal rest, a sense of sorrow and melancholy arose in her heart. In the end, unable to bear the fleeting dreams, the past turned into a handful of yellow earth like smoke. The once unstoppable Princess Taiping. For this once highly esteemed confidant, a eulogy was written. Her life story engraved on stone tablets, passed down through the ages. Thinking back to those years, Lady Shangguan Wan'er, who was still in her prime, together with her mother, she was sent to serve in the imperial palace and became a palace slave. That year, her father, who was a prime minister, Shangguan Yi, caused trouble by drafting a decree to abolish Empress Wu Zetian. After the incident, Empress Wu, who held all the power, used the accusation of treason to execute the prime minister's household. The female family members were sent to the palace to serve as slaves. The once illustrious Shangguan family thus met with destruction. Shangguan Wan'er, who had a golden spoon in her mouth, became a guilty minister's family member before understanding human affairs, followed her mother into the palace to become a palace slave, grew up in the palace. Wan'er's mother works in her spare time. The most important thing is Wan'er's cultural education. As time goes by, Wan'er is growing up gradually. Also gradually understood her own origins. Once the golden branches and jade leaves of the Prime Minister's mansion, but now has fallen into such a situation. She has never been content to be a palace maid in her heart. She understands. Now only knowledge can change one's own destiny. Therefore, one should have been in their mother's embrace. The age of crying and acting coquettishly. Wan'er learned it early. In the hard work of getting up early and staying up late, she squeezed out time to study hard. This also enabled Wan'er, at a young age, to be well versed in literature, acquire the talent of reciting, and learn to sing. The fleeting years left a deep imprint of scholarly atmosphere on Wan'er. Her talent had also spread from the Yeding Palace into the ears of Wu Zetian. When Wu Zetian learned that there was another talented descendant of the Shangguan family who had fallen into the Yeding Palace, she couldn't help but summon Shangguan Wan'er. As Wan'er looked at the enemy who had wiped out her family in the past, seated on the Phoenix throne, mixed feelings arose within her heart. The internal tension and nascent hatred intertwined. She knew that this was her only opportunity to turn the tide. Facing Wu Zetian's test, Wan'er's stunning talent earned her praise. She was freed from slavery on the spot, and became a female official in charge of issuing imperial edicts. From then on, she had the opportunity to rise rapidly in her career, although she still maintained the appearance of an innocent young girl. However, in the midst of this royal palace turmoil and political machinations, she deeply understood that in order to secure her position, she must be skilled in plotting and manipulation. Perhaps only at dusk, as the sun sets, when everything is about to be shrouded in darkness, she dares to reveal her ambitions from her own eyes. She wants to be like the Empress Wu. One day, she hopes to have the power to control the fate of the great Tang dynasty, to change situations easily. Only then can the Shangguan family have a chance to be vindicated. Facing Empress Wu, who is both a foe and a benefactor, Wei has been wholeheartedly assisting her. Her talents are increasingly being appreciated. Gradually, she began to participate in the decision-making process. All important decrees were issued by Wei. Not a single memorial was approved without her review. Now, she has risen to a high position, overseeing all the courtiers. Time flies like an arrow, and years pass by. As Wu Zetian has reached old age, a political coup known as the Shenlong coup occurred in the court. Empress Wu Zetian was overthrown. Tang Zhongzong Li Xian ascended the throne. In order to win over this former high-ranking general from the previous dynasty, to help maintain balance in the turbulent situation within the court, he appointed Lady Wan as Ranrong, who holds the position of second-rank official, was appointed as the minister of the imperial harem, a position just below the empress. In that year, Shangguan Weiner's family, who had been falsely accused, was finally vindicated. Her mother was conferred the title of Lady of the State of Pei. Her father, who had passed away and rested in the underworld, finally found peace. When Weiner found herself in the quagmire of palace intrigues, after experiencing countless nights of studying by the cold moonlight, she finally reaped the rewards in this moment. She then established the Zhaowen Institute within the court, and opened a mansion outside the palace gates, recruiting talents from across the land. Beyond the political arena, she showcased another side of herself. Her unparalleled literary talent caused a stir in the court, and for a time, the Shangguan style became the trend in the Tang literary world, serving as a guiding light for scholars and literati to follow. The reputation of Shangguan Jiarong resounded throughout the court, making her the unofficial prime minister of the Tang dynasty. In that year, in order to bring down Queen Wei, who had poisoned Emperor Zhongzong of Tang, Shangguan Wanner conspired with her close friend, Princess Taiping. The memorial jointly written by Shangguan Wanner and Li Longji led to the Tang Long coup. Li Lingji led the troops into the palace. Unexpectedly, he was extremely fearful of Shangguan Wanner. He, who had ties to Princess Taiping's power, in order to eliminate obstacles in his own path, placed Shangguan Wanner under his command without Princess Taiping's knowledge. Princess Taiping was thunderstruck upon learning of Wanner's death. Subsequently, she severed ties with Li Longji. At that time, in similarly distressing circumstances, she single-handedly constructed a tomb for Lady Wanner. She personally wrote an epitaph for her. Princess Taiping stood quietly in front of the tomb. She ran her delicate fingers over the tombstone and softly recited the inscription, the quatrain that would only be revealed to the world 1,000 years later. The Xiang River water breaks, the one-way mountain tumbles. Pearls sink, circles break, and jade shatter, cities unite. Just looking at the pine trees, quietly listening to the brightness of the grave. Thousands of years, pepper flowers sing praises. You should walk with her all the way. Watermelon video creator, calling comics. Do you know the first person in history who was called an emperor? Was his childhood very miserable? Ying Zheng, a member of the royal family of the state of Qin, became a hostage in the state of Zhao from birth because of his father. Later, his father abandoned them, and he and his mother managed to escape back to the state of Qin on their own. Ying Zheng, who was exiled and living as a dependent in other people's homes. He was then imprisoned in the state of Zhao, relying on the influence of his maternal grandfather in Zhao to barely keep his life. At that time, the Qin general Bai Qi massacred more than 400,000 Zhao soldiers, representing nearly one-fourth of the population of Zhao. Becoming the dead souls, under the blade of the Qin army, the soldiers and civilians of Zhao fought as one. They wished to drink their blood and eat their flesh. Ying Zheng, who was abandoned and became a discarded son in the state of Zhao, undoubtedly became a thorn in their eyes. Everyone wished to kill him and be done with it. Here he encountered endless humiliation in terms of personality, living a dark and hopeless life. However, despite this, he is always careful and cautious, so as not to be killed by the Zhao noble family out of anger. In the state of Zhao, Ying Zheng is like a sheep entering a tiger's den. In the state of Qin, Ying Zheng is once again a discarded son. It is also here that Ying Zheng learned to endure. At a young age, despite extreme despair and pain in his heart, he still managed to conceal his emotions well, waiting for the day when the sun would shine through the clouds. In the end, heaven showed mercy on him. His father became the king of Qin, while he and his mother were sold to Lvbue. They were later redeemed at a high price and returned to the state of Qin. However, the 10-year-old Ingzheng, soon after returning to his country, experienced the passing of his father. The 13-year-old little Ingzheng went through many ups and downs. He ultimately ascended to the throne as king. However, even though he became the king of Qin, he still had to continue to be patient, as he could not personally rule until he came of age. The real power of the court was controlled by powerful officials. It was not until he turned 22 that he was crowned and began to personally govern. And in that year, there was a coup in the palace involving his own mother. In the end, this coup was won by the crown prince, crushed by his own wisdom. Afterward, he exiled the powerful minister, slowly taking control of power in his own hands. From then on, Ingzheng no longer had any opposition. He recruited talents from all over the world, implemented the policy of eliminating regional lords, and devised strategies to unify the world. Of course, at this time the 6 states have already formed an alliance to resist the Qin state together. However, this alliance is not very strong. The 6 states are disunited and lacking in virtues. They all want to sit back and reap the benefits. Ingzheng implemented a strategy of befriending far and attacking near, gradually undermining the alliance of the 6 states, eroding the surrounding states bit by bit. Within 10 years, he successively merged 6 states. After Qin Shi Huang established the Qin dynasty, he abolished feudalism and replaced it with prefectures and counties. He standardized the writing system, weights and measures, and currency throughout the empire, becoming the first dynasty in history to unify the entire country. Qin Shi Huang was the founder of this era of unification. Afterwards, he sent troops to the north to attack the Xiongnu, building the Great Wall for resisting foreign invasions, which was continuously adopted and imitated by later emperors, made one achievement after another for future generations, having unimaginable significance and achievements, but after he personally took power in China, but suffered several assassination attempts. He carries a lot of infamy. And through all this, it must have been experienced by the winning politician who survived assassination. All have long been aware. Childhood grew up in war and hatred. The conflicting identities of the royal family and 4 felons. Father's lack of affection, mother's lack of love. Let him experience the ups and downs of the world. Suffered the torment of the soul. But perhaps he had long abandoned the opinions of others, striving tirelessly only to establish great achievements, only wishing to live in that era of raging war, to be able to unify the world. Perhaps then, no one will ever experience the same fate as him. He grew up strong-willed in the midst of storms and gales. He has always lived in the criticism of others. However, Ingzheng transitioned from endurance to forgiveness, from humiliation to indifference, until the chaotic fires of war came to an end. What he did has been the subject of controversy in later generations. Even though he may be condemned by his contemporaries, his achievements will last for generations. After Ingzheng passed away, the Qin dynasty may have perished. However, the system established during the Qin dynasty's unification of the country continued for over 2,000 years. The sand swept in all directions, the fireflies flowed hurriedly, with a hint of lingering heat. Do you know the story behind the poem, Luo Shenfu, where its lines describe someone as graceful as the clouds hiding the moon and flowing like the wind bringing back the snow? According to folk legends, there is a tragic love story behind it. Cao Cao defeated Yuan Shao at the Battle of Guandu. His beloved son, Cao Ji, came to the Luoshan Shrine in Henan while passing through during a military campaign. He happened to meet Zhenmi, who was hiding there to avoid the turmoil of war. Cao Ji's young heart was shaken by Zhenmi's stunning beauty. He considered that Zhenmi's return journey was obstructed. He then presented a white horse to help her escape back to the post station. Before leaving, Zhenmi left behind a piece of jade pendant to express gratitude to Cao Ji for gifting the horse and saving her from danger. From then on, the two of them formed an inseparable bond. Xiao Yu was knowledgeable and talented from a young age. Before the age of 10, he was able to write poems and literary works. He was greatly admired by Cao Cao. Jinmi was a noblewoman. There were rumors among the common people that there were two talented women in the south of the Yangtze River, and Jinmi in the north of the Yellow River. Later, Jinmi married into the Yuan family, who were prominent officials for 4 generations. When the Yuan family fell, Jinmi, facing a siege by a powerful army, remained calm and composed. When she was about to draw her sword, she was stopped by Qiao Bu. Later, Qiao Wei occupied the territory of the Yuan family. Qiao Ji then met Jinmi again, the lady who had gifted him a jade horse at the Luotian temple. She was known for her exceptional talents throughout the land. Qiao Ji, known for his exceptional talent, was admired as the most talented person in the land. Qiao Shi often took the opportunity to play the zither in front of Jinmi's residence. Although Xin Chong never saw him, he often heard his music. Xin Bai, who was already quite talented and sensitive, gradually found relief in the melodious music, easing the melancholy brought on by displacement due to the turmoil of war. Jinmi's heart was also stirred by this. Qiao Shi also made many attempts to find opportunities. He was able to persuade Qiao Qiao to arrange a marriage. However, fate played its tricks. At that time, Qiao Qiao had the intention to groom Qiao Ji as his heir, and so he married Jinmi, a captive without any family background. Was Qiao Bu promised in marriage? The daughter of the prestigious Cui family was promised in marriage to Qiao Ji. As a result, due to twists of fate, they became uncle and niece by marriage. From then on, there was no longer any possibility. Qiao Ji's most fervent emotions had to be suppressed. Later, in the struggle for the heir apparent, Qiao Ji was defeated. Jinmi was also spared by the future emperor Qiao Pai. That year, Qiao Ji was 31 years old. Upon hearing of Jinmi's passing in the capital, he was deeply grieved. After obtaining Jinmi's keepsakes from Jin Sun Qiao, he headed back to his fiefdom. When he returned to cross the Luo River, the sun was setting, and the vehicles were stuck while the horses were weary. He got off the carriage, walked in the sunny forest. As he looked out over the vast waves of the Luo River, he suddenly seemed to see Jin Luolai, walking on the water in the wind. Her figure was elegant like a startled wild goose, graceful like a swimming jiaolong, and beautiful as a newly emerged lotus in the green waves. Qiao Shi, seeing this, was startled and stood up with a restless mind, only to realize it was just a dream. Scenes of their encounter in the dream kept rolling in his mind. He then wrote the poem, Feeling the Emotions, to record the meeting with her, describing the goddess Luo-Rapha, the daughter of Fuxi, adorned in beautiful attire and jade ornaments, walking on the water in a misty dress, splashing foam resembling dust as she walked and frolicked. Causing Qiao Ji's heart to sway uneasily and restlessly, he took off the jade pendant and handed it to her. The river goddess raised the precious jade in her hand, lingering softly. Following her, the water god's surging waves calmed down. The surrounding gods observed attentively. As the river goddess departed with her jade phoenix, the carriage passed over the southern hills. Only saw the river goddess slightly open her vermilion lips, looking back and softly saying, Only resenting that humans and gods are separated, although both are in their prime and unable to fulfill their wishes. This statement is just like the already separated Qiao Ji and Jinmi. The goddess of Luo River finished speaking but suddenly didn't know where to go. Qiao Ji suddenly felt lost. He often recalled the scene of meeting the goddess of Luo River. Looking back, he felt even more melancholic. He hoped the goddess would appear again. Disregarding everything, he rowed a light boat against the current. He forgot to return while boating on the long Luo River. The lingering love in his heart continued to grow stronger. He couldn't sleep all night due to his restless mind. Covered with heavy frost until dawn, he had to order a horse-drawn carriage. He embarked on the road back east. But as he held the reins and raised the whip to drive the horse, he felt lost and melancholic again. He lingered by the bank of the Luo River, unable to leave. This was Qiao Ji's Feeling Fu, which was renamed Blue Ocean Fu, by his son Xiao Jing to avoid his mother's name taboo. Though the two never met again by the Lu River, their story still echoes in the Lu River, leaving endless folk legends. Do you know that Kai Wenji, widely acclaimed as the foremost of the four great talented women, led a tumultuous life in a chaotic era? Kai Wenji's father was Kai Lan, a prominent official in the Eastern Han Dynasty. The handwriting style of flying with one hand is regarded as a treasure in the literary world. Kai Wenji, who grew up in such an environment, also inherited her father's talent. She is erudite, knowledgeable, adept at poetry and debate, and skilled in music theory. Childhood passed carefree under the protection of my father. However, destiny had different plans for Kai Wenji, exhausting all its benevolence towards her during her childhood. After growing up, Kai Wenji married and moved afar. Wei Zhongdao, a prominent figure from Hedong, gradually formed a close bond with Kai Wenji, whom he had never met before, due to their compatibility in character. Falling deeply in love, Kai Wenji was unexpectedly left alone when Wei Zhongdao passed away from illness less than a year later. Kai Wenji, burdened by the cold remarks of the Wei family, returned to her maiden home. Her father became her only support. However, Kai Wenji was unaware of how her husband's passing added to her misfortune. Just a flickering spark in the raging inferno. At that time, warlords vied for power in the waning years of the Eastern Han Dynasty. Dongjua set Luoyang ablaze, causing the Kai family to flee in turmoil. The family head, Kai Yong, also perished in the flames. Kai Wenji thus lost her final support, undoubtedly adding more hardship to her life. A beauty caught in troubled times, Kai Wenji had a wealth of knowledge, but was left with nothing. Plundered by the Xiongnu invaders, who took advantage of the chaos in the Central Plains. King Zuxian was far away among the Xiongnu, but he had heard of Kai Wenji's talent. Once again seeing her beauty, he forcefully took her as his wife. Since then, Kai Wenji was far away from her hometown, taken captive heading west by the Xiongnu people. Her homeland was already destroyed, leaving Kai Wenji in despair. She watched the towering mountains with a heavy heart, fearing there was no hope of returning. From then on, she endured a life of hardship, battling the harsh winds of the grasslands, yellow sand, and the unappetizing lamb's belly. This perseverance lasted for 12 years. During those 12 years, day and night, she yearned for her homeland, feeling lost and resigned to her fate. Kai Wenji, enduring humiliation and struggling for survival, often contemplated ending her life to escape the suffering but persisted, clinging to a glimmer of hope of one day returning home. She wished to be buried in her ancestral soil after death. Thinking back on her own experiences filled with numerous hardships and dangers. Clutching a worn-out instrument, she began composing the world-renowned piece. 18 beats of the Huqin. Each beat represented a different state of mind. Every melody expressed deep sorrow and desolation. Watching the wild geese fly south and return north, but unable to leave or bring back the longing for the homeland. Mixed with the howling north wind carrying yellow sand, as well as the chaotic flames of war, completely cutting off all news from the homeland. In the more than 10 years of coming to the Xiongnu, she gave birth to 2 children. From then on, there was a bit more familial affection in the melody. Finally, on a day of rejuvenation for the earth, the yellow sand no longer ravaged, and Chao Chao, who had an old friendship with his father Kai Yong. After hearing about the hardships faced by the daughter of his old friend, Kai Wenji, he then sent people with a decree and a large sum of money to come and redeem Kai Wenji back to the Central Plains. Kai Wenji was overjoyed upon hearing this news. She never expected to have the opportunity in this lifetime to return to her homeland. However, when she turned around and saw her 2 children, the pleasant surprise instantly vanished, and tears streamed down her face. Just as she had savored the joy of returning home, she was immediately faced with the pain of separation from her own flesh and blood. The Xiongnu people naturally wouldn't agree to let her take away her 2 sons. As Lady Kai Wenji slowly drifted away, she heard the sound of her children crying behind her. Each sound struck her heart like a sharp sword, shattering Lady Kaiwenji's heart. Her feet felt heavy and difficult to move. Her heart felt like it was torn apart, with no one knowing her pain. From then on, she and her child were separated, unable to find each other. They could only gaze at each other from afar day and night. They parted ways and returned to their hometowns. The old grievances were finally resolved, but new grievances emerged. Poor Kaiwenji, even as she embarked on her journey home, she carried the sorrow of parting with her son on her back. Kaiwenji walked through the sandy battlefield where bones were piled up like hills. She looked ahead at the long and arduous mountain passes. The 18 Songs of a Nomad Flute reaches its conclusion on the journey manipulated by fate. The poignant melody is heartrending. After returning to the Central Plains, Xiao Xiao valued Kaiwenji's talent and appointed her as an imperial historiographer. This allowed her to carry on her father Kaiyong's aspiration for historical scholarship. And he betrothed her to his subordinate Dong Si. Kaiwenji, who has been wandering for many years, has experienced numerous separations of life and death. She deeply cherishes the stable life she currently enjoys with Dong Si. However, later, Dong Si committed a capital crime and was executed by Xiao Xiao. When Kaiwenji learned about this, in the snowy wilderness, clad in a thin garment with disheveled hair, Kaiwenji knelt barefoot in front of Xiao Xiao's banquet, pleading for mercy for her husband. Kaiwenji eloquently spoke, recounting all the difficulties she had faced in her life. But words couldn't fully express the desolation in her heart. Xiao Xiao, who admired talent, was deeply moved by the sincerity of Kaiwenji. He waived the death penalty for Dong Si. In gratitude for Xiao Xiao's mercy, Kaiwenji presented over 4 dozens of lost books from the Kai family. Relying on her exceptional intellect and memory, she transcribed over 400 volumes of the lost books. In an era where books were priceless treasures, these over 400 volumes of books brought great joy to Xiao Xiao, as if he had found a treasure. These volumes of books also made a significant contribution to the history and literature of later generations. Dong Si, after being saved, expressed gratitude for the grace of Kaiwenji. There was also a significant improvement in their relationship. Her misfortune thus came to an end. The Life of Kaiwenji. The book tells the fate of the beauty in the chaotic late Eastern Han dynasty. She experienced hardships that others couldn't experience in several lifetimes. Later generations also turned Wenji Returns to Han into a beautiful story.